I feel like there's a new opportunity on the internet. And I think the playbook is shifting a bit. It's much more about how you sell than what you sell increasingly. And that wasn't always true. 20 years ago, you just be really good at selling.
Yes.
It doesn't work anymore. It's not for the faint of heart. We made that bet, and then it was just a full-on marketing effort.
Oh, that's a long sigh. Okay, I want to hear this. Brian, talk to us about how you first came up with the idea for HubSpot.
There were sort of two aha moments. I had one, and my co-founder Dharmesh had one. Mine was I was working in I had an internship at a venture capital fund, and I was working with all these venture-backed startup companies. They had lots of money, they had lots of expertise, and I would ask them, how are you marketing your products? And they all had the same playbook. We're going to cold call lots of people. We're going to buy a list and send a lot of emails. We're going to do the big trade show, advertise, and hire the PR firm. And it just didn't seem to be working well. And my thesis was that people had caller ID, they were blocking the cold calls out, they had spam protection, they had ad blocker, they had DVRs, that it was like nearly impossible to market to them. And so I was kind of on the negative side. While that was happening, my co-founder, Dharmesh, we were in business school together. He simply blogged his way through business school. And anytime he had an interesting class or an interesting topic or interesting book, he would write a blog article about it. He had 1,000 times more interest in his crap little blog than any of my rich venture capital firms. And so the way I kind of thought about the way he was doing it is he was marketing in a way that matched the way humans actually lived and worked and shopped, like pulling people in from Google in social and very clever ways. And so we started to describe the world as the old school outbound world and the new school inbound world, and started espousing the idea that people had to move from outbound to inbound. And then we tried to do it, and it was hard. You had to put in a piece of blogging software and a content management system and email marketing and marketing automation and search engine optimization, CRM. It was just a cluster truck of a project to try to get it done.
And try to get 20 different software to talk to each other.
And so we just said, hey, let's build a modern platform for entrepreneurs, small business owners, so they can get going with this stuff and really grow their business. That was the sort of initial spark that started HubSpot 13 years ago.
So it's kind of like most people are doing the push marketing, right? And you're thinking, well, instead of trying to push our message, our products, to people, why don't we pull them in? Why don't we deliver content value upfront? And then so if they want to learn more, they could book a time with us, right?
And now here's what was interesting timing-wise about it. It used to be that if you wanted to market and you wanted to do it on video like you're doing right now, well, you have to buy an ad on someone else's TV show and rent space on somebody else's asset. Or if you want to, do something audio, you rent a little space on someone's radio station. Or if you wanted to do something written, well, you rent a little space on someone's newspaper or magazine. And you couldn't create your own TV show. It was very expensive. You couldn't start your own radio show. You couldn't start your own damn newspaper. It's too expensive. Correct. But the cost of creating your own content through a video cast like this, through a podcast, or through a blog dropped dramatically. So we basically taught people to become publishers. You're really good at publishing content, pulling people in from social, pulling people in from search, and transforming their go-to-market to match the way people buy.
I think it's interesting because on the surface, when people look at HubSpot today, they might think, oh, it's just a software. Well, once I thought it was just a software, but once I get into it, it's this business model that's, I think it's just amazing what you built. So share with us a little bit about the journey. How did you kind of build it piece by piece? I could tell that your company is very customer centric, right?
Yep.
It's very focused much on how do we solve a problem for them, and then one problem solved, here's another problem. Then how can we offer solutions to solve that problem? So share with us your business model.
Sure. the history of HubSpot is really two acts in our history. The first act was this act of inbound marketing. And there was an arbitrage opportunity on the internet that still exists, but was really big and wide open 13 years ago. It's still there. I feel like there's a new opportunity on the internet. And I think the playbook is shifting a bit on the way small business owners and entrepreneurs really grow big businesses these days. And I think some of the things that are shifting under our feet is it used to be really hard to build a product or a service or a piece of software. It'd take a long time. And there was a deep, deep barrier to enter these industries. But increasingly, it's easier and easier to build a great product of any kind, whether you're building a software company, a service company, a content company. The tools are just more efficient. If you're trying to build software, for example, you've got Amazon Web Services out there. You've got open source software. Everything you buy, you can buy per month. You can use a WeWork. Like the cost to start HubSpot was millions of dollars. The cost to start HubSpot today would be tens of thousands of dollars. And so product advantages today are increasingly short-lived. They're harder and harder to create a sustainable competitive advantage. To me, and I remember in business school, we had a professor that used to always say, if you want to build a great company, your product needs to be 10 times better than the competition. And sustainably, that is incredibly hard to do. You may do it for a little while, but if you get a good opportunity, capitalism is incredibly efficient, and one of your listeners is going to figure it out and catch up or at least get close behind them. Increasingly, it seems like it's not about getting to product market fit, but getting to experience market fit. It's much more about how you sell than what you sell increasingly. And so my new bandwagon, soapbox, whatever you want to call it, is the winners in the market have similar products to the incumbents or slightly better products than the incumbents and materially better end-to-end experiences for their customers and materially better business models than their incumbents. That seems to be where the kind of arbitrage opportunities move. So our second act is, we build a marketing system, sales system, service system, content management platform, a full end-to-end kind of CRM customer experience platform to help people do this modern kind of experience disruption. We're assuming they're going to get the product right. We want to help them create a gorgeous, beautiful end-to-end customer experience.
And I want to emphasize, like myself, I'm a client of HubSpot, right? And now we are transitioning a lot of different things to HubSpot, it's a big switch, right? And throughout this process, and I think that's one of the things that I just have tremendous respect, not just for the software, not just the tech, but from a customer service perspective, from a brand perspective. Because as CEO, I look at these things too, right? Where the onboarding process, the documentation, and everything that you've done, it just tells me that the kind of leader that you are and the culture that you built, because it's the people, right? It's not just the piece of tech. Like you said, anyone can build a piece of tech, but like it's something that I just feel like I aspire to be. I aspire to build an organization like that great. It's just huge amount of respect.
I appreciate that. I don't know how much is me versus everybody else who's doing a good job around here, but we are a little bit customer obsessed over here.
Yes.
And I just don't think you can, it used to be, Dan, that like the relationship between the customer and the vendor, the vendor actually had a lot of power. The customer couldn't really do a proper evaluation of the product without purchasing it.
Yes.
The customer, if they weren't happy with it, they paid for it up front. They couldn't just like stop paying, like everything's subscription now. If they weren't happy, they couldn't go on social media and complain to everyone.
Yes.
And so it used to be the power really was with the vendor and the customer. It's really
now it's shifted.
The other thing that's flipped is supply and demand, I think, is flipped for the reasons we were talking about before, that in any given industry, there used to be 3 or 4, maybe 5 major players in every industry. Yeah. Most industries were organized inside an oligopoly type format.
Yeah.
I don't know an industry today that doesn't have hundreds of competitors. Like, think about razor blades, for example. You go to Amazon, there's like 10,000 and then that doesn't even include Harry's and Dollar Shave Club on top of it.
Yeah, but then you do have Dollar Shave Club, who just right?
And even marketing software. There's 6,000 marketing software companies out there. The supply and demand is so on the way. If you're not obsessed with delighting your customer, you're going to have a really hard time, I think, if you're not. And it wasn't always true. You could 20 years ago, you just be really good at selling.
Yes.
It doesn't work anymore.
In the beginning of HubSpot days, what were some of the things that you did to kind of get traction? Because in the beginning, it's a new software. Maybe it's a new concept, like, inbound marketing. What is this, right? Like, how does this work? What do you mean you don't cold call? Like, how did you get traction?
Okay, one of the first biggest arguments we had inside of HubSpot was what to call this thing. And some people inside of the early days of HubSpot were saying we should call it inbound marketing. It's inbound versus outbound.
Okay.
And other people were saying, no one knows what the hell inbound is or outbound is. Let's call it internet marketing, because people will understand that. And people actually search on internet marketing, we can get found and whatnot. And we battled that for like a couple of years. And finally we decided, all right, we're betting on this idea of inbound versus outbound. And it's not for the faint of heart. We made that bet. And then it was just a full-on marketing effort to establish inbound as a category. In order to do that, we wrote a book. So you got, thank you, my book up there.
Right there.
I personally wrote hundreds of blog articles about the topic. I did thousands of speaking engagements on the topic. We created a conference, and we have 25,000 people come to our Inbound conference. So we really put our back into creating this kind of new category, and that paid off. I'll tell you another story though, Dan. I remember in the early days of HubSpot, once a week, the whole team, 5 of us or whatever, small team, would get together and would count our customers, and then everyone would go through and say the health of the customer. Are they happy, unhappy, what's going on with these customers? And the product was very raw. It's nothing like it is today at the time. And then we had another column of where we found them. And the first 50 customers, there was a thing called FOB, and we showed it to a new employee, and like 47 of the 50 were FOB. The new employee said, "What's FOB?" And FOB was Friend O'Brien. And so 47 of our first 50 customers were, colleagues of ours. And then once we got up over 100 customers, very few, I don't have that many friends. Most of them were pure inbound marketing, and almost all of them found us through our blog or through social or through organic search. And that was customer 100 to 65,000. That's the case.
And in some way, that's kind of what you guys have done, is being the pioneer of education marketing, right? You educate first, and then you get them on the phone. It's very interesting. Even as we're using HubSpot, I was talking with my team and saying, hey, do you think HubSpot has this feature? Like, I was thinking about something, right? Yep, they got that. Oh, what about this thing? Yep, they got that too. Oh, what about this thing I want to do? No, they got that. So I'm like everything is so well thought out.
Oh, good.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, they have that. Like, I didn't even know, because before the solutions we have, as we grew so rapidly, it's this software, but it doesn't have all the functions I need. And this,
how many people do you have?
Right now, 50.
Yeah, we built it for companies between 5 and 500 employees. You're like perfect for us.
Yes. And then we have like a couple hundred sales closers that we train that closing for us.
Congratulations, by the way. It's not easy. It's very few people make it to that. You're doing something very right. And you got a hell of a bobblehead. I like the bobblehead.
Oh boy, yeah. Yes, and it's
interesting. What's this Chinese symbol back here? What do you got here?
That's actually my last name, Lok.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Lok, yes.
And you're from Hong Kong or Guangzhou?
Hong Kong.
I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years.
5 years?
Yes.
And a little bit of Cantonese?
Oh, my God.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you this. So even with what I do, when I launched my sales training program, right, high-tech closing program, just kind of like what you did. I go in the marketplace and say, okay, everybody else is talking about cold call and talk to people. Why don't I create a program that teaches me how to close on the phone, but inbound, right? And that's how the program was born, and now transition to closers.com that we have this platform.
Oh, great.
And so with your experience, what are some of the mistakes like during this journey when you're growing HubSpot? I'm sure like we all make a lot of mistakes. Like some of the mistakes, and how did you overcome those mistakes, and how did those mistakes become a turning point? Like
we're still making them. Unfortunately, we're still making them. Here's my attitude towards mistakes. I'm actually okay with people in my org and even myself making mistakes, and I'm very forgiving of it. Where I get really irritated with myself in the org is when we make the same mistake twice, which we've actually done a lot. It's hard. As you scale, it's hard not to make mistakes. I'll give you an example. Like this year, we've got about 3,000 employees. We hired about, 800-ish. I can't remember the number, but a large number of employees. 2 years ago, we had to hire a large number of employees. We fell behind on hiring. When you fall behind on hiring, it slows your revenue down. It particularly hurts you if you fall behind in hiring, let's say, customer support. Because you're signing up lots of customers with your sales reps and your marketing, but you don't have enough customer support people. And the problem with that is when your customer support falls behind, then your wait time increases. And if your wait time increases on a telephone call, one, people get irritated. Two, they complain about you. Three, they call your sales reps. So your sales reps not selling. They're doing crappy support. And so we have made that mistake a couple times. And the thing what we try to do that helps us not make the same mistake twice most of the time is when we make a mistake, Dan, we look at, all right, we figured out the mistake on March 1st. If we were looking at a certain piece of data on January 1st, could we have found out early? And so I have a PowerPoint deck, a slides deck that I get once a month. And there's about 100 slides in there that I can zip through. And I can look at every slide and say, I remember why we made that slide. It's because we fell behind on hiring and support, and that caused all these other problems. And we wish we had tracked support interviews or whatever it would be before that. So we had a leading indicator of it. So we're pretty good about, okay, well, we made a mistake. Let's try not to make a mistake. How do we prevent making a mistake? Well, usually it's looking at data. The thing about mistakes as you get bigger is there's unintended consequences. Like I was just talking about, like we fell behind on hiring and support, and it had unintended consequences that our net promoter score fell for a while, and then our new sales productivity was low because our sales reps were doing support. And so it's oftentimes there's these ripples through the organization that are unintended.
And do you find that how would you describe your leadership style? Maybe in the beginning of the startup to today?
I would say that like as a founder in a startup versus a scale up, your greatest strength in a founding CEO oftentimes is you're kind of a control freak. You like to make decisions, control. Right. That turns into your greatest weakness as you get bigger. It turns out, as you're scaling, people don't want you making all the decisions. They want a little leeway and they want you to have oversight. And so one of my big mistakes is it took me too long to transition out of that role of being micromanager, making every decisions, and too long before I felt comfortable just hiring great people and trusting them and delegating them. And I still struggle with it. I still definitely struggle. I just got out of a meeting where people are bringing that decision to me, and I should have been like, you guys decide. I'm not comfortable with making this decision anymore. And so I think one of the reasons so few companies go from 5 employees to 50 to 500 to 5,000 is the great strengths of the founder that got them to 50 or 500 turned into kryptonite and was the thing that prevented them to get to 5,000, 50,000.
Very, very true. And what changes did you make in terms of when you grow from, let's say, 1 million to 10 and 10 to 100 within the organization? Maybe leadership?
Yep. The leadership organization, I remember the leadership team we hired. So we kind of came out of MIT and we hired a bunch of MIT alums and people we went to school with who were smart and was kind of the same core leadership team from 10 employees to I would say 200. And I thought we would have them all the way. Everyone said, oh, you're going to turn them over, you have a new team. And I said, no, we have the right team, it's going to scale. We turned over pretty much all of that team around between 100 and 500 employees. They all either left or were pushed out. And the interesting thing is there's nothing wrong with them per se. They just are more startup-y, and then most of them went to found startups. So many of the ex-HubSpot early leadership team are founders of their own company. And then we brought in another wave around a couple hundred employees, and we're kind of on our third wave. We've got a new CFO now. We're hiring a new chief customer officer. So we're on kind of our third wave of leadership as we've gone. It's like tens of employees, hundreds of employees, thousands of employees waves.
So basically, the executive team that you had in the beginning, what got you here won't get you there. It's not the same team, right, that you started off with.
It's a little sad, but at least for us, that's been the case. The only people left from the founding, if you look at how many of the executives in the company that we had 20 employees versus today, it's just my co-founder and I. We have lots of people still here from that era, but like the head of services, head of sales, head of all the departments is all new.
Right.
And you touch with them, they're all HubSpot customers and they're great and they're doing startups. They just didn't like the big company thing.
Is it too corporate? They feel like?
I guess. Didn't move fast enough. They didn't really like managing big teams and going to weekly meetings and stuff like that.
How do you manage, what's your day-to-day like?
Okay, I have a couple weird things about my schedule. I spend a day a week working from home. Okay. And I don't take any calls or Zoom meetings or anything. It's my day to think and work on projects. Yes. Because in a day like today, so I'm having one of those days, Dan, where just before I walked in here, I had another meeting, and just after I leave here, I go to another meeting, and they're back to back. And then tonight, I'm having an event for my top 30 sales reps at my house and their spouses. It's going to be great. Okay. And so it's one of those days. And there's no time, some of the things that come across the transom aren't just quick email response. They're like, I got to think about that or talk to people. And so my day off, Wednesdays, is my project day. That helps a lot. It helps in my it helps just get real thinking and work and strategic stuff done and projects done. It also helps, I think, to get a day away from, being around humans takes energy. You're super extroverted, so you don't feel this, but I'm kind of in between, and I get tired when I'm around humans for 5 straight days. So it wears me out. Yes. And so that break from humans helps a lot. That helps a lot. Another thing on my day-to-day that I try not to do is live by my inbox. So a couple times a week, I'll go and make a to-do list and rank order it of the most important to the least important. And when I do that, then I'm pushing out of my inbox versus dealing with all my inbox. My inbox is great, but it's everyone else's to-do list imposed on me. Well, what about my to-do list? I want to impose my to-do list on you. That's right. So I'm pretty harsh about the prioritization of the stuff I'm doing and not doing in any given week or month. And I publish that on our company wiki so people know that it's important. So if something comes in the transom for someone's asking me to do it, and it's kind of a pain in the neck to do, I just be like, it's not on my priority list. I just can't do it right now. And I can point them at my priority list. So that's a little hack that's helped me. I've worked about 55 hours a week since the founding of HubSpot, kind of the same. Okay. And how do you, what KPIs you look at, or do you have a weekly meeting with your executive team? How do you manage? We have daily charts on how everything's going, so I know really every day on what's going on. Yeah. And then we have a monthly PowerPoint deck that comes out that I can know what's going on. That's very helpful. We run kind of on a monthly cadence. In terms of the meeting schedule, I don't particularly like the one-on-one check-in meetings. I do them, but I don't like them. But where we get a lot done is we have something called the HubSpot Executive Leadership Team Helm. And there's 12, 13 people on it. And we get together twice a month, first week of the month, third week of the month, for 3 hours. So they're long meetings. They're not staff meetings. The first one is operational. The second one is all about customers. We only talk about customers. We have customers come in and talk to us. It's 3 hours of the whole team obsessing about the customers. I'll say another thing that we've got in the habit of doing is a couple things that as you move from startup to scale up that become important is just planning and decision making. And so my decision making style when we were early on was we're in a meeting and there's 6 of us here, Dan, and I and 4 others. And 3 of you are on, 3 of you say red and 3 of you say blue. And we have a rich debate about the topic. And for whatever reason, I'm convinced a little bit that the red is right. And so we're doing red. And then what would happen is we'd all leave the room, and the next day, one of the blue people would come and say, hey, let's grab coffee. We'd have coffee. And he was like, I think you messed up with that red decision. I think it's really blue was right. And I'd be weak, and he would convince me, or she would convince me. And then send an email, I changed my mind. It's not red, it's blue. Yeah. And when you're small, it doesn't really matter because, it doesn't mess up lives when you do that per se. But when you're big, changing your mind is incredibly expensive. You get all these IT resources and comp plans and all this stuff tied up into it. And so I almost never change my mind. It takes me longer to make a decision. So we're in that debate, red versus blue. If it's not clear to me at the end of it, I just say, we got to meet again. And then when I decide it's red, somebody will look at me and say, well, you're sailing the ship on it. And that's what we call it, sailing the ship. We have a lot of nautical helm metaphors, whatever. And I would say, yes, we're sailing a ship. And then that means 2 things. 1, they can't lobby me. And 2, even if they didn't agree with the decision, they have to agree and commit. They got to do it. I know you didn't agree. You got to do it. I don't care. Do it. That was a big cultural shift that's really worked for me personally and for my teams.
Kind of like think slow but act fast.
I never read that book, but maybe. Yes. I heard that's a good book.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's because each decision now as a domino effect, affects so many people, right?
Yes,
and then it's almost like before it's a little speedboat we can navigate. Right now we've got this boat cruise with 3,000 people on it. When we want to change course, it's a big slow thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's how I see it as well. That's incredible.
I'll tell you another one, related topic, Dan. Another thing we've had to get good at is annual planning, and so the way we kind of work is we have a big conference in September, our inbound conference. And after that conference is like the most exciting part of the year is right now, actually, between September and December. It's the September and November, where it's like any crazy ideas on the table of where we can take the company and what are different things you can do. Then by the end of November, we decide, all right, this is the plan for next year. And we typically outline 4 big plays the company will do. And then we'll outline, here are the things we'll track to see if we're on track. And then there's the other 40 things that we decide not to do. And that's been a key for us is what are we doing and what are we not doing? If we're not doing it, not revisiting it, that reduces the thrash inside the organization and gets people kind of focused on it. So then January 1, we're cranking on those 4. We have our inbound conference and then we revisit everything. That cadence has helped us.
That's incredible. So when you decide something you're not going to do, you just this is it. We're not going to.
Don't even bring it up. Don't even bring it up. Don't want to hear about it. We decided we're not doing it. We're not doing it.
So then,
great idea. We should. So no, I don't want to hear it. Talk to me about it after inbound. Talk to me about it in October.
Interesting. And how do you find how has the event helped the entire organization in terms of branding and getting the message out there?
I don't think that's helped us with branding and getting the message out. It's just got the organization it's got all 3,000 people lined up behind a few things. I'll tell you an interesting story. So I went to a talk once by Elon Musk, the Tesla founder, and somebody asked him about scale. Maybe he's not the best person to ask about this. Maybe he is. Whatever your opinion of Elon Musk, he had an interesting answer. He described an organization as a set of vectors. And in physics, a vector is a force going in a certain direction. And a vector has a force, how much force is behind it, and it has a direction on it. And some people have more force than others, like some people are higher impact than others, but there's one direction. And he said, if you really want to get stuff done, you need to get all of your vectors pointing in the same direction. If you've got some vectors pointing that way and some vectors pointing that way and some vectors pointing this way, you kind of limp along. When you get them all pointing the direction, you can move very quickly. I don't know if he takes his own advice on that or not, but I thought it was good advice and I try to follow it.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And from what I see, and this is just like, see, some of this is like a personal question from me. The way I look at HubSpot, which I think that's where the similarity, I have the same thinking, that we're not just thinking about selling a product, right? Let's say within my organization, from one thing, my whole goal is build an ecosystem. So everything is, one thing is stronger, another thing is stronger. Otherwise, I would just have, let's say, the education division, but why do I have the closest.com, the software, and then all these other things that we have? Because it's like a one thing leads to another. Right? It's like almost a horizontal as well as a vertical integration, if that makes sense. Like, what's your point of view?
It's similar, like we're trying to solve the entire solution for our customers of how do they grow. And so we have a suite of our own applications we build, sales, marketing, service, website, stuff like that. And then we surround that with, there's about another 400 other applications out there that could plug in, whether that's SurveyMonkey or Eventbrite or you name the other third-party application. And we made it easy for them to plug into HubSpot so we can leverage all that stuff. So we have sort of this, our suite, and then an application ecosystem around us. And then I think of like on the other side that we have these agency partners. So we have about 4,000 of these agencies that will go in and they can create content for you. They can do SEO for you, create your automation for you, create your website for you. So we're kind of similar. And I think there's this 1 + 1 + 1 equals, I don't know if it's 10, but there's a multiplicative effect. If you think of it like a flywheel, the faster our customer flywheel spins, the happier our customers are, the more customers we have, the faster that spins. That makes our application marketplace bigger. Like it's more attractive for them to build an integration in our marketplace, the bigger we are and better quality integrations. Same thing for agency partners. The more customers we have, the more of those agency partners. So it's like, I think of it as like this HubSpot center flywheel is getting bigger, and then that application flywheel, and then that partner flywheel. And so they're all kind of together, similar to yours.
Yeah, and the agency partner also helps to promote HubSpot too. Exactly. It's like they get certified. It helps you get all your customers, promoting you, and then they become more successful because then in turn they'll hire them to do the integration, to build a website, right?
Exactly.
That's beautiful. For entrepreneurs, let's say, because I could see you do the same thing, where you're creating content, we're creating value, we're creating even a lot of attention in the marketplace, right? You are a thought leader. You speak. You write. Like for entrepreneur, let's say someone who is maybe getting started, maybe doing less than $1 million in revenue. They're very busy. They're doing a lot of different things. Right? And they say, "Hey, Brian, why do I need to spend time, writing and publishing, doing blog? Why do I need to do that? Why can't I just do my thing? Like, why is that important?"
Well, if you want to grow, you got to pull people into your business. You got to pull visitors and leads and customers. And I just don't think the way to do it is the old school cold calling. No one answers the phone anywhere more, or spamming people. No one answers the spam. Even ads are getting blocked a lot. I think the right way to do it is become a thought leader in your industry. Be the world's best at whatever your little niche is. And I don't care if it's blog content or you create a video like this series or a podcast series or whatever kind of series you want, but create remarkable content in your niche and make it like a magnet that pulls people in. That's the way you market today. Whether you like it or not, you got to figure it out.
Yeah. And one of the things I teach all my students, I say, when you call someone, you are the salesperson. When they call you, you're the expert. If you can have them call you, you have much more power when you're talking.
I agree. I like that. I'm going to borrow that. I like that.
Do it. Yeah, it's very, very true. Because it's like one of the things I teach them to say on the phone, let's say in the beginning, what calls it the agenda. I say, so what were you hoping to get from me today? Well, you can't say that when you're calling somebody.
Yes.
But you can't call somebody, "Hey, what are you hoping to get from me today?" It doesn't work, right? Right? Always teaching them to have that doctor kind of frame, right? When someone comes to the office and say, okay, when someone calls you, what kind of solutions they're looking for? What are their pain points, right? It changes everything. And that's how you get the it's I think for entrepreneurs, when I work with entrepreneurs, they feel like, well, it's easier if I just outbound and cold call. It feels easier. It costs less. But you and I both know that's not true.
People don't answer the phone. I don't even have a phone at my desk anymore. And it creates it's a bad way to start it.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, cold calling is like the hardest thing to do. It's painful.
Yeah. And I also feel that the way, it's not just how we sell it, but the way that they were brought in to the company, the product and service is very critical. If you cold call someone and then you are like, you kind of twist their arms, you hard close them and say, okay, fine, they reluctantly sign. And now they're like, okay, so show me what you got, right? It's like very skeptical versus now they've been consuming your content, been watching your videos, listening to your podcasts. They're happy, finally, they get to talk to someone. Yeah. And then when in time they join, they sign up, they're looking forward to, okay, what can we do, right?
I agree with that.
It changes everything. The testimonials, the results. I mean, it changes everything.
I agree with that.
With your vision, now some might say, who would you see as your biggest competitor?
I think our biggest competitor is people who put together a whole bunch of little point solutions together. They buy a website from one company and then they hire an SEO consultant and they hack together social media tools and CRM, and like it gets hairy and complicated and hard.
I thought you would say Salesforce. I'm surprised.
That would be my number two. Like number one is like gluing all this little stuff together. Number two is Salesforce for sure. Yes. We compete with both.
Yes, but I do
see. There's plenty of competition out there. No matter what industry you're in, there's plenty of competition.
Right.
By the way, we're getting big, 3,000 people, whatnot, and our product's great and whatever. We gotta be on top of our game. Like I can't mail it in at all. Like I have to be on my toes, engaging in the marketplace, or we will get crushed by the competition. The competitors don't rest. Salesforce, great company. These point solution companies, great companies.
It could be a different version of the HubSpot, a group of young people, innovative, right?
Totally. Yeah, you got to stay on top of your toes.
Where do you see HubSpot in the next, let's say, 3 years? What's your vision?
Yeah, I think we have this suite strategy to help people grow. That suite is really powerful. It's going to get much more powerful. And there's kind of a few legs to that suite. We'll add some applications to that suite that will add even more value. That flywheel of application partners is 400. There'll be a lot more of those as we open up more APIs and make it easier for us to do business with. Those agency partners, that will open up and be much richer and much easier to find. There'll be a great marketplace for that. And so we moved from being what a lot of people would describe as an application software company to being much more of a platform partner for our customers. They just come to us and take care of just any growth topic. We'll take care of it through our platform.
It's almost like going to a buffet, right? Okay, if you like steak, you can have steak. You like seafood, we've got that cover. You got the dessert, or you can have it all, right? That's okay too.
Yep, and it's okay. You come into HubSpot and for whatever reason you don't like our sales application, you'd rather use Salesforce.com for that. Great, plug it all in, just make it really easy, and make it. People don't want a bunch of hard, complicated stuff. They want it to be reasonably priced, and they want it to be easy. There's a very much a consumerization of the products people use, and a consumerization of the business model people use. So more and more of our business starts with people start with our free version. And their free version does a lot. Like an entrepreneur, you get 2 people. Don't pay for HubSpot. Come and use the free one. And if you grow and you need to pay for stuff, you'll figure that out later. But I think there's a consumerization of the product.
That to me shows the belief that you have for the products. To say, you know what, test our products. Let us get some results for you. And if you make more money, generate more revenue, we know you're going to upgrade and get our other plans. It's like a no-brainer, right? You're already using our software, right? I love it. How do you view social media? Oh, that's a long sigh. Okay, I want to hear this.
It's disappointing what's happened. I was a very, very early adopter of social media, very early on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot. And it's unfortunate how their business models have evolved and how the tone of the conversation on these platforms has changed and how the unintended consequences, it's too bad. It's too bad. Having said that, as a marketer, it's undeniable that even with all the bad stuff going on in social media, that's where people live. People live in Instagram, they live in Facebook, they live in Twitter, they live in Snapchat, all these different systems. And so whether you are a big social media fan or not, you need to figure out how to create content and get it to spread and resonate in social media, because that's where people spend their lives. So we are very cognizant of the way we leverage Instagram, the way we leverage Facebook and Twitter and all these social media platforms. We are super active in there. And they are fantastic lead generation platforms and fantastic brand platforms. Like, it is a major important way you need to market in social and search. A lot of people spend a lot of time and energy talking about pay-per-click in Google, and pay-per-click works. It's expensive, but it works. Google organic still works. It's super underrated. People don't talk about search engine optimization as much, but we get 9 million visitors a month organically from Google. It just works. We create great content. It's worthy of acquiring links through it. People will link to it, and you'll get found in Google. That's the gift that keeps on giving you. Your success in those platforms is much more about the width of your brain than the width of your wallet. That's what I like about social and search. You don't need a ton of money. If you're an entrepreneur that's 5 of you and getting going, if you can get good at it, boy, that's a good way to generate customers and leads.
I love it. So for my audience, if they want to get started with HubSpot or even just get an idea, what do you recommend? Of course, the book, that's simple. HubSpot.
I would just go to HubSpot.com and click the free button and start using it. You can set your whole damn front office system up through HubSpot. You can run, if there's 2 of you, you can run your whole front office through HubSpot, your website, your CRM, your marketing automation, your service, everything through HubSpot, and it's free. Just go to HubSpot.com. Yeah, if you want to read the book, that's fine. I wrote that book a while ago, by the way, so things have changed a bit since I wrote it. I would more say, just go get it set up on HubSpot. It's easy.
Even in HubSpot, there's so much training. Like there's a million. Yes, it's incredible. There's a
whole university in there.
Incredible. It's not just how to use the software. I'm not talking about how to use the software. It's information on sales, on inbound, on marketing. There is so much, and it's all free.
Yeah,
it's all free. You listening to me? It's all free. It's really incredible. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. I learned a lot. I think I want my executive team to watch this because they're like a number of golden nuggets I think we can apply immediately.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me on. Thank you very much.
And I look forward to, working together, forming a strategic alliance. I think, it would be fantastic.
That'd be great. Pleasure chatting with you, Dan.
Thank you.